You comfy?
Where's that for? Where'd you put it?
All right, I just want to start. I want to say welcome, everyone. I'm Jim. I'm neighbours to Brian and Sue, and I'll be leading us through our memorial service today. I do want to welcome you all here, and I do want to say on behalf of Sue and Brian and their families that we thank you for taking the time to come together and to share in the memories and the moments of sadness that we all feel when we get to this moment in life where we've lost the ones that we love. To begin our ceremony today, we're going to light a flame in honour of those that we've lost. And in this time, in these moments where we're lighting the flame and I'll be playing the bowls behind me, I want to take a minute to just reflect, stop into silence for a moment and think about the loved ones that we're here to mourn and the people around us that we use to support us and that we cherish in our lives through these times. Feel free to close your eyes, let your heart soften, let the memories of Victoria and Ken and of your own beloved ones surround you. And Sue, if you're ready, we'll come and light the flame.
Come on, you pray. Okay.
And the flame's there, you feel the heat that's happening because the flame starts.
So, one of you, you want to first one? Oh, yeah, sure. Do we open this?
Slide it back, yeah.
Oh, okay.
Go a little deeper. There we go. I can see the heat.
Oh,
Pop
yeah.
your hand over, you can see the waves moving.
Is it lit?
Yeah, it might take a minute to just let that fire out. Yeah, put your hand. Pop, you can see the heat waves.
Yeah, see, it's coming.
Little tape. Throughout our lives, we will inevitably reach a point where we are met with tragic loss. When we are younger, we believe that this is something that happens to other people, in other families, and we feel for them. It seems that the losses and the sadness are things that we know of, but they aren't delivered to us. Yet there does come a day when the news of tragedy settles into your home, and you realise that there are people that you will need to turn to in this time of need. And each of us here today are those people, the friends that will lean in and will help Sue and her family into this next chapter of life, where the memories will be cherished and the times past will be mourned. To hear the news of Kenneth passing is hard news to receive, and to be across the ocean and not be able to lay him to rest is an uneasy pain. And within days, for us then to receive the news of Victoria's untimely passing, the grief is a different kind. The inability for us to be present to lay both Victoria and Ken to rest is not something that we've chosen, yet it's not something that's going to stop us honouring their lives and celebrating the way that they lived. Today we'll share readings, verses and eulogies for each of them. And for those that are speaking, take your time, we're in no rush. The words are to be heard and felt, and to act as a balm to heal our pains and to honour those that lived. I'll now invite Sue forward to share a poem that she has written in memory of her daughter Victoria. Yeah, come on.
No, I didn't actually write this poem. It was written by a Lorraine Muir. Now, years ago, I started Wollondilly Cancer Support Group. And I actually wrote this book, all of it, with people's stories in and a support for people in the area who were touched by cancer. But firstly, I would sincerely like to thank each and every one of you who have taken the time to come today. You are my true friends, and I value every one of you. And I don't want you to ever forget that. And it has shown me today the people that really care. Now, unfortunately, as you know, I wasn't allowed to go to my daughter's funeral. But however, I have to forgive and ask us all, we've all done wrong things, and that's why Jesus died on the cross. He died so we might be forgiven. And it doesn't matter what we've done, we can all ask for forgiveness. And I, more than anybody, need to ask for forgiveness for some of the things I've thought about my family, and I forgive them all. So this poem is called Freesias. I've never taken the time before, never really thought to see the freesias round my garden path, though their faces they smiled at me. I had often loved their fragrance, and their colours I knew well, but I never really thought of them and the story they could tell. So I sat down in the morning sun while their happy hearts did sing of the life that they rejoice in and the miracle God brings. And when I looked much closer, I could feel his love anew. For some flowers had bloomed, the ants are biting my feet. For some flowers had bloomed, and some flowers had died, and some newborn buds shone through. So through the seasons of our life, we should try to understand that we must live and we must die, and then be reborn again. Like these happy little freesias who go on eternally. And if they can trust in greater things, then let me tell you, why can't we? And I'd also like to make, there's some people that can't be here today because they're not well. And two of those people are Michelle Powell's mum and dad. So I'd like to give a special thanks to Michelle She's come all the way from Canberra. And to me, that shows true love. Thank you.
It's beautiful, Sue. Thank you. I want to now hear a eulogy for Ken. If I could get Brian to come forward, he's going to share some words for us.
Actually, this one doesn't. I forgot to mention Brian, and that is terrible. Brian has been my rock through all these years. And I cannot thank him enough.
Hey. I'm going to start crying in a minute.
He's the most beautiful man you could meet. Thank you, Brian.
I haven't done any to it.
Actually, I need to thank my son up there at the back, Jason and Jane, for this Christmas present. Come in handy.
Hey.
Oh,
Does that sound all right?
right, hello to you all, and thank you for joining us to celebrate the lives of Ken and Victoria. As you just heard, this is a very emotional time for Sue, especially for the sudden passing of her daughter. So Sue asked me to say a few words on behalf of her about her father, and Michelle will talk about Victoria. Well, what a wonderful life Ken's had. He was born in 1928. He would have experienced so much change in the world over his 95 years, the mind boggles. In fact, Ken was born the year penicillin was discovered. How far has medicine come since then? He lived through the Great Depression, World War II, and many more historical events. He grew up from a time where there was no phones, no television, to a time where you could watch a movie on your wristwatch. Ken was born on the 24th of January 1928. He was the youngest child of four. The parents Percy Clarence Franks and Dorothy Nee Harvey. They lived in a town called Lamington Spa. Does anyone know where that is? The English people up here?
It's actually got some baths in there. That's why it's called a spa.
Oh, right. Ken's parents had a pet shop, which he would work during school holidays when he was old enough to be there. During Ken's schooling years, he played rugby, enjoyed swimming and cycling. But Ken's leisure time in those days was mostly spent helping his father. Ken left school at the age of 16, and his first job was a farmhand. He didn't last long there as the wages were very poor, so he left to work for another farmer who paid better and allowed him to attend agricultural college. As time went on, Ken would purchase a tractor and start contracting to other farmers. It couldn't have been all work in those days, as Ken had met a young lady that had moved into the area to take up a teaching position. It was now 1947, and she would turn out to be the love of his life. A young lady from a place called Barrow in Furness.
In Cumberland.
In where?
Cumberland.
Cumberland. Oh, okay. A beautiful lady by the name of Maureen Whiteside. On the 19th of April 1949, Ken and Maureen would marry. They would buy a run-down cottage on 15 acres of land and rent a further 35 acres next door, their first farm. They would have farm animals and grow vegetables, while Ken was still contract to other farmers with his tractor. Within a couple of years, or 2.5 years, their family would be complete, with Susan born in 1950 and her brother Malcolm 1951. Eventually Ken would have a career change, working for a company called Silcox, a seed merchant, selling seed to farmers. Ken's main love was of design and construction of houses though. That would see him move many times. In fact, they bought and sold 12 properties in time, each time building his net wealth for his family and his and Maureen's future retirement. By 1970, they moved to Worcester, where Ken took up a job with Massey Ferguson selling farm equipment. The children were now grown up, and by the late 70s, Susan was married with 2 children. It was this time that Susan and her family moved to Australia. Ken and Maureen would visit them every 2 years. Ken finished his working life as a sales engineer in 1989. During retirement, Ken and Maureen would love to travel, but it wasn't long before Maureen would be struck down with Alzheimer's disease. Ken looked after Maureen for 10 difficult years before having to move her into a nursing home. Ken would visit her daily. Sadly, in 2007, Maureen would succumb to the wretched disease. I first met Ken at the tender young age of 82 when he came to visit us in 2010. I couldn't get over how sprightly and energetic he was. Sue and I were worn out by the time he went home. They say that age is just a number, and in Ken's case that was true. After 55 years of marriage, Ken was very lonely. Not long after returning home from visiting us, Ken rang us to say he had met a new companion and was getting married again. In 2012, he married a lovely lady named Anne. Ken and Anne were members of the same church. In 2014, Sue and I flew to England to visit them. That was the last time we saw them in person, but with modern technology, we would FaceTime them often. They enjoyed 12 wonderful years together. We last spoke to Ken on the 12th of February. With Sue's brother, Malcolm, and family by his bedside. Oh. Ken passed away peacefully the following day. A life well lived, sadly missed, but never forgotten. Thank you.
Thanks, Brian. Now I'm going to ask Michelle to come forward to share eulogy for Victoria.
It is through death that we celebrate life. It has touched all of us here today in some way. The grief, the sadness,
Take your time yourself.
the pain, all of which eventually leads to being able to smile and laugh about the good times. The tears fade and the memories take hold. I have known Vicky for my whole life. I say we celebrate life, and my God, Vicky was larger than life. She was loud, she was colourful, she was boisterous, funny, and always up for some fun. She loved me like her little sister. She protected me, stood up for me, and also led me astray. I was a fearless child, which I think scared Vicky, as I was just like her. Us kids were always creating our own fun and getting up to mischief in some way or another. I can still hear Vicky saying, if Kevin will do it, then none of us will get in trouble. It didn't always work. I too loved her like a big sister. I learnt a lot from Vicky, some good, some bad, and it was to love fiercely, live life, and have fun doing it. Vicky has been a part of many milestones in my life. Every childhood birthday, my 18th, my 21st, a memory that always brings a smile to my face and a little giggle every time I think about it is on my 18th birthday. Vicky took me out for a night on the town. She gave me some very arguably good advice. Always have a packet of tampons in your handbag. That way, when a fella asks you for a spare smoke, you can decide what you will offer him. This will either make them go away, or it'll be a conversation starter and possibly a free drink or two. I too was able to be part of milestones in her life. I was there for her birthdays, I was a bridesmaid at her wedding, and for the birth of her children. She has been a person that has been there at the hardest moment of my life. She was just there, a hug, a laugh, and reassurance. Although our lives went our own directions, she was always a phone call away, and we were right back to reminiscing about the days of when we were kids and sharing a laugh at the times and sometimes a tear. She just couldn't believe that I grew up. It made her feel old. She would constantly remind me of how proud she was of me for following my dream and being where I am today. Vicky played a part in this. She had the big sister and a friend role. Vicky struggled with her own demons and also her own health issues. I was able to attend her funeral on Friday in Young and witnessed a community that is grieving the loss of a friend. She is a much loved person and will be sorely missed by many people. We can shed a tear because she is gone, or we can smile because she has lived. We can close our eyes and hope she comes back, or we can open our eyes and see all that she was and what she has left behind. Our hearts can be empty because we no longer see her, or we can be full of the love and the memories that we all share.
Thank you, Michelle. That was lovely.
That was very lovely, Michelle. Thank you.
Yeah.
I'm now going to share a psalm on behalf of Sue and her family. It's Psalm of David, Psalm 23. The Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. He makes me lie down in green pastures. He leads me beside quiet waters. He restores my soul. He guides me in paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Even though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil. Your rod and your staff, they comfort me. You prepare a table before me in the presence of my enemies. You anoint my head with oil, my cup overflows. Surely goodness and love will follow me all of the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Last person to read today will be Sue's granddaughter Chloe. I'd like to invite her forward now to read some passages of a poem called Always Keep Hope in Your Heart.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. I'm really happy that Grandma got to have this whole experience, and I'm happy that everyone's come here to support her, because it's incredibly hard to not be able to go somewhere where you feel like you need to properly mourn. But it's very good to be here. Well, good, but you know. Vicky and Ken, I met them quite sparsely throughout my life. I only met Ken once, but he was like just Grandma's dad. I was like, whoa, he was old when I met him, and I was very little, and I was like, whoa, he's already so old now. Last time I heard about him, I was like, whoa, he's actually old now. He's lived a long time. And God bless him for that, because he's obviously done a lot of work throughout the years, and he was probably a pretty good guy. Vicky, yeah, she's just my auntie, and I loved her in the time that I met her. Like she messaged me once and congratulated me on my life, but she was very big and loud, as she said, all the way up till the end. I'm happy that she was a big part of the community, and all through her right and wrongs, she was like, you know, she was pretty cool. I'll read this poem now that I've been given. Okay. If you can look at the sunset and smile and find beauty in the colors of a small flower, then you still have hope. If you can find pleasure in the moment of a butterfly, and if the smile of a child can still warm your heart, then you still have hope. If the sight of a rainbow still makes you stop and stare in wonder, and if the soft fur of a favored pet still feels pleasant under your fingertips, then you still have hope. If you can look to the past and smile, and when faced with the bad, when told everything is futile, you can still look up at the end, and end the conversation with the phrase, yes, but. Then you still have hope. Hope is such a marvelous thing. It bends, it twists, it sometimes hides, but rarely does it break. It sustains us when nothing else can. It gives us reason to continue and courage to move ahead. When we tell ourselves we'd rather give in. Hope is a wonderful thing, something to be cherished and nurtured, and something that will relish us in return. It can be found in each of us, and it can bring light into the darkest of places. So never lose hope.
Thanks for sharing, Chloe.
And that was eloquent as everyone else here.
I do want to thank you all again on behalf of Sue and Brian and their family for making the effort, coming and sitting under the shade. Luckily we had a bit of shade. And you're all very welcome to come afterwards down into Camden. We're going to go to the Plough and Harrow, which is a pub on the main street. There's parking at the back if you guys aren't familiar with the area. And we're having lunch and sharing a drink or a beer or a coffee or whatever suits you. But before we go, I just want us to have one more moment of remembrance, and as we extinguish this flame, keep in mind that it's not the end, it's just the beginning of the next chapter, where we have to learn to live with people on the other side of the veil. Keep your minds open, keep your hearts open, and let that love flow. Reach out in those times where we feel like we're in need, and support the ones that we love, because we never know when it's that last moment. Thank you again for coming. If anyone else would like anything to say, you are welcome to come up. However, if not, call it a day for you.
Can you just play the bowls before we go?
Well,
Do you want to say something?
yeah, it was a message from the pub, so where are you?
Yeah, because you reserved it for 2 o'clock. The pub wants to know where we are. We got there and you reserved it for 2.
Well, you were there, you told him we were coming then.
We told them, but we were like, I literally said to the lady, I was like, is he notoriously late? And she was like, yes. She literally gave me your nickname.
Everyone's going to go to the hotel.
Notoriously late. Whoever's able.
Just to have a drink of coffee or a beer or whatever you want, yeah. And there's some finger
I'll message him and let him know.
First time.
Oh, that's the thing you've got there. Yeah, and also. Oh,
Hey, find that. Okay. I was like, oh, it's at the park. He's like, oh, it's at the pub. I'm like, oh, okay. He's like, yeah, Grandma messaged me. So I went,
She was ringing his all this morning.